Welcome to the show. In this video, I had the privilege of speaking with Marcus Malone. And Marcus is the current president of HRO Resources and the Broker Collective. Marcus is a faith-centered leader, currently leading a fast-growing HR, payroll, and employee benefits company based out of Texas. He's now spent a total of 16 years in sales and leadership and really loves to give back. He's sharing his experiences and expertise to help lift up others and at any other chance he gets. So, Marcus is an absolute inspiration. I highly advise you check out this conversation. It is packed with value, with insight, and inspiration. So without further ado, I give you Marcus Malone. And we're live. Marcus, welcome.
Good to see you, Logan.
Likewise. Thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a great way to finish up a good week.
Agreed. Friday afternoon podcasts are great. After our last discussion, I left feeling inspired because of your perspective on business specifically, and it's tempered through a number of phases or seasons in your career. That's you're standing on a foundation that you've built layer by layer, and I could hear that in the way that you represented yourself very professionally, but also really grounded. So I was really inspired by that, and I think the insights you can provide will be inspiring to others, but also accessible for those that are just starting off further down behind you on the trail, so to speak, or contemplating a shift to start something new. I think that framing out the origin story, identifying some of the lessons learned along the way, and then discussing your current state and the perspective you have on business, leadership, and life would be the framing for today's conversation.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. I mean, I definitely, hopefully it will, like you said, maybe help somebody out there, maybe avoid some pitfalls along their journey, or at least stay encouraged when they feel like things are coming unraveled, when they might actually be falling into place.
So where did it all begin professionally for you?
It's interesting because it was I went to college and really had no idea what the heck I was going to end up doing. And it's one of we talked previously, so a big part of my life is my faith and relationship with God. So looking back, it's easy to see how everything was really kind of strategically put together. But it's interesting. I was went to Bland and went to A&M, College Station. No idea what I wanted to do, and then kind of a few years into that, having some family in the business, thought, okay, I got my real estate license. I have family in real estate. Dad's a home builder. I went to fire academy, graduated number one in my class there, and was actually about to become a certified firefighter here in Houston, Texas. So I went through like 3 interviews. I was about to go to work for HFD and was going to be a firefighter and a real estate agent. And it's amazing the timing. And I'm telling you, man, through my entire story, timing has been such a critical component of every move that's ever happened. And it goes back to this one, but 3 interviews deep, like done deal with the fire department. And my dad is kind of building a home for an executive at a very large company in our industry, called an Administap at the time. Great company, great experience there. But, this executive is like, you need to tell him to come work for us, tell him to come sell for us. And for whatever reason, I'm like, this is a great idea. It's something different. I don't even know how to spell PEO. What's a PEO? Let's do it. And so, I went into Insperity, and that's kind of where it all began. It was I spent a few months in a marketing department. I mean, I was a young guy, 24 years old, maybe 23 at that time. And it was maybe 6 months or so in, got the opportunity to move on to the sales team. And that really was kind of what kickstarted everything for me. I mean, it was the greatest learning experience. I think kind of the best launch pad for me in so many ways, because it was not just learning an industry. It was growing up fast professionally and maturing fast because, all of a sudden I end up on this team of, veterans and high performing salespeople making multiple six figures. And I'm just like kind of intimidated, by these folks. And I believe at that time was the youngest salesperson on their staff of, I forget, don't quote me on this, but I believe there were probably around 350, 400 salespeople. And so it was kind of a pressure cooker type environment there. And, but that's where it all began, man. And it's kind of took off from there.
Being in a new industry, a new job, a new team with a lot of seasoned high performers, that intimidation factor you're talking about, what did it look like from that initial first couple of weeks to the point where you found you got your stride, you got a good rhythm? Was there someone there that ended up kind of putting a wing out for you and helped carve the path? Did you have to brute force it through trial and error? What was that process of going from the new guy trying to get his feet on the ground to picking up a good rhythm and performing at a higher level?
That's a good question. I've never been asked that question. That's actually a really good question. You got me thinking. But one of the things that looking back now has been one of mine, just kind of a God given trait. One of the best things I think that I've brought to the table everywhere I've been and everywhere I go is just very been told. I mean, I come across in every scenario this genuine, sincere, like I'm not, a person that's coming in there trying to be, fit this certain mold or having to, fit into this corporate mold per se. And so for me, it was like the thing that I leveraged and leaned on in the beginning was, because of that genuine approach, that sincerity, that kind of humble approach, just how I was raised. It did make some of those, veteran folks kind of really warm up to me quickly. I didn't know what the heck I was doing right out of the gate, but fortunately, there were several people there on the team that they really warmed up to me. They were good to me. I invited them and took them on as many meetings as I could. And so, the more that I kind of, got into the job role, and I started paying attention to, I mean, I knew very quickly, like, this is an exciting business. There's a huge opportunity here. Like, I have always been a high performer at whatever. I've been super competitive, right? I've been an athlete my whole life. I'm like, I want whatever it is, I want to be the best, right? And so I started to, take advantage of, obviously the friendships and relationships I was making there and not feeling like I have to figure this out and I have to prove myself, but taking an approach of, these guys have been doing it for years. They're fantastic at it. Like, let me just sit back and soak it in, right? If they're willing to teach, willing to bring me along for the ride, in some of these meetings and prospect opportunities, like I'm going along for the ride and soaking it all in. And so then I started really kind of paying attention to, who are the high performers, who are the top performers on the team. And I want to bring them on my meetings, right? I want to learn from the best. And that's what I did. So I spent a lot of time, really probably and nearly 6 years there. I spent probably, I would say at least the first few years, first 3 years, um, doing exactly that, just kind of almost being a fly on the wall, sitting back and, being a prospecting machine, scheduling meetings, but bringing in these veterans and bringing in these high performers and kind of sitting back and learning from what, from what they do to be successful. And then, over the other blessing too, I think from that experience was there, it was a big company. So there were a lot of salespeople. I mean, and just in our offices alone, we probably had, on average running around 20 to 30 salespeople. And so, an industry where there's a decent amount of turnover too, you get to see a lot of different personalities and backgrounds come through the door. And so you really kind of get to see and get a feel for what's successful and what's not, and it wasn't always, and I still look at this today, like it impacted me so much in the way that I hire employees today, because it's not all like so many people want to get you to assessments and fit you in, like you need to check these boxes and you're going to be this perfect candidate boxes. But for me, there are so many kind of intangibles, like so many soft traits, if you want to call them, that that go into making a successful salesperson. Like I can look at all the high performers that I worked with, the President's Club winners, and there's not a clear, consistent pattern in what they did before that made them successful. It was more about their personality, their delivery, the way they communicated with others, their ability to connect and earn trust. And that was something that I feel like I'm like, you know what? I got that. I don't have to. And so it's like a light bulb, a few years into this thing where I'm like, I don't have to be perfect in every meeting. I don't have to go into every situation and ask the perfect questions and build the perfect business case and present the perfect proposal. I just have to be able to connect with people in a way that they care about. And so once I figured that out, that was a game changer for me. I was able to connect with people and, it helps you win so many competitive situations too. You start to realize like if I'm in there and I'm competing against 4 other companies and I may not be the cheapest offer on the table, but we've got a connection and there's a high level of trust there. They're going to choose me almost every time. And that's kind of what I've been able to, see unfold and really take that with me really everywhere that I've been since.
Sounds like a if we were to boil that down to some principles, some guiding principles that you develop, you either it sounds like you reinforced throughout the process. One, going from that real green place, new team, new environment, was authenticity, I think, throughout all of it, but the real authenticity, not the cliche form, like
That's
being humble enough to separate from the ego and be like,
that's
I know enough to know that I don't know a lot here.
You have to genuinely humble yourself. That's the best way
Yes.
I can say it. I came from, again, environments where there was a sports team or whatever. I mean, I've been one of the best or a team captain or whatever. And so then all of a sudden you're in this environment where you're a long ways from the top. And so now feeling like you have to come in there with your chest out and, create, trying to create some type of image for yourself, but just realizing that and taking a very humble, genuine approach. I think when you do that, um, you put yourself in the best position to receive genuine help, coaching, guidance from the best. And that's what you need. I mean, if you want to get yourself off to a fast start in whatever career it is, I mean, humble yourself. Look for the folks that have mastered their craft and, learn from the best. Realize that, you don't have to be perfect right out of the gate. But the more that you can soak it in and really learn from folks who've mastered their craft already, the faster you're going to get to that point as well.
There's a one level deeper to this is a bit abstract. I don't even know if I can frame the question right, much less tee you up for a clear answer, but I'll do my best, Marcus. Eh, you've probably seen a lot of younger men today, and it's probably not a new issue for younger guys these days, early 20s, just starting off their professional career. There's a balance between what you're saying. There's a tension rather between this thing of humbling yourself, sincerely humbling yourself, but still having enough self-worth and confidence in your abilities to show up. There's a difference between showing up with a big chest, trying to make a name for yourself versus giving a firm handshake, being able to look another man in the eye, speak
But
firmly, and with a level of self-worth internally. There's a tension there, and I think I've seen, and maybe you've seen similarly, younger folks, but specifically, I think younger men, that there's like the dark side of humility is lack of confidence, lack of
oh,
self-worth,
yeah,
and this withdrawing factor. So it's a bit abstract. I don't know if I've
I think
characterized that
that's,
dynamic
I think
right,
what
but
you're saying makes perfect sense because you're absolutely right. That's something that I literally have trained on as recent as this week. In terms of really, I mean, because it is a fine line, like you still have to have that confidence in your approach and your delivery and not just kind of be, falling back behind the scenes and letting everybody else kind of, take the reins and lead the way. And that's important when you're in meetings with clients and prospects. or anybody for that matter. But, for me, I think it's more, something that I've coached salespeople on over the years that stood out to me about this exact topic is that, you don't, especially when you're in a complex sales position where the learning curve may be, like we always said, you know, it's about a 2-year process of being fully trained. And even in that, at that point, you're really not. You're still learning so much, you're learning today. But if you can, as quickly as possible in your career, really identify what your strengths are. What are your strengths? And for me, it was just, my ability to connect with the person, because they can feel that sincerity, that genuine connection that I really care about, what I'm there to help with. Right? I care about their business. I care about the person and they can feel that, but figure out what are your strengths. And then you can lead with confidence by leaning on your strengths. Right. So yes, you're humble in a way that, you're receptive, you're coachable, right? You're moldable and you're coachable. But at the same time, like you have this natural confidence because you realize that you're there for a purpose. Somebody saw something in you to bring you wherever you're at in the first place, to hire you for this position or whatever it may be. So, just having that, identifying your strengths and then letting that kind of fuel your confidence, lean on your strengths. If your strength is, your ability to communicate, great. If it's ability to, connect, then leverage that, lean on your strengths and let that fuel your confidence. But I think you have to help a person, identify their strong suit. And I think if you can do that early, with a new salesperson, they can always fall back on that and that will, keep them in a place, I think, of confidence, which is important. Um, as you know, with your delivery and whatever it is you're communicating, to your client or to your prospect or whomever. But no, it's a really good point. It's a fine line. It's one of those things that, it may take somebody a while to get there, right? And try to figure out how to marry the two. The humble, the coachable approach, but also not, you still want to be assertive and, in control to some degree, right? I mean, we want our folks going out there and, I was talking to one of our folks about that this week with one of our partners, and then also about a prospect situation where it's like, look, we're the experts at what we do, right? They're talking to us for a reason. They need our guidance. So we have to, own that, right? Own it and keep control of the situation and not be afraid to tell a prospect like, look, I don't know if this is the best way to be doing X, Y, or Z, because of A, B, and C. I really think you guys should consider doing it this way. Here's why you should maybe be considering this method or this approach versus the other. And not just kind of sitting back and, hey, whatever you guys want, we'll do it. Just tell us, you take the lead and we'll try to build something to fit. We're the expert. And I think it's why we do so well here at our current company, because that is the approach we take. We're here to guide you and use our expertise to help you build the best solution. But in order to do that, I've got to be confident enough to kind of take some control respectfully, in a conversation.
Self-awareness is key.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's an art.
You're bringing us into more of the current state now with the company. Bring me back to that point after you ramped up 3 years, going from green to shadowing, on the job training, bringing in the pros, finding that artful balance between the confidence and assertiveness to make deals happen, but also the humility and coachability to know enough to learn from guys that had a step more, were more established in the job field. But you mentioned that 3-year sort of ramp up process. What happened after that in your career from a macro
A few
perspective
different
to bring
things
you
really
closer to where
happened.
you
I
are now?
mean, one day, well, while I was still at that particular company, something happened that, and we talked a little bit about this. I mean, there's so much opportunity in adversity. If you're all, everybody's going to experience adversity at some point. It just is what it is. Doesn't matter what you do. You're going to run into tough times. Man, you learn that it's important to recognize that every time you run into adversity, it's an opportunity. There's an opportunity in every adversity. And so she's probably 2 years into this role. We have 2008, 2009 rolls around, and the economy was brutal at this point. I think it was the most challenging year and in the history for the particular company I was working for, and really the industry as a whole. Small businesses were really just kind of like reclusing, and we're not making any decisions, any changes. Everybody was kind of panicked about what was going on in the economy. We were selling a solution that was, I think, no secret, the most expensive product in our market space. And so you've got the most expensive solution. You've got a market where nobody wants to spend any money. It was a time where you saw a lot of folks who had been there for years, a decade or so, that were getting let go or leaving the company. Like times were tough. And for me, it was kind of a blessing again with the timing, like being so new and this my first, real sales role. I didn't really have any benchmark to measure this by, right? I just knew all I knew was, hey, this challenge, right? This is tough. And so it really kind of it put you in a position. It put us in a position to really have to learn and learn quickly how to truly sell on value and not price. And so that was a turning point for me. It forced you to really learn the full suite of the solution, the tools and resources that we had available, and how to sit down with a business owner and really truly understand them, their challenges, their business, and help them really build a solution that is transformative for their business, that they clearly see the value in making an investment because you've helped them understand this is going to take them to a new level. This is going to boost their revenue and boost their business because you've built so much value. When before that, it was just, so many salespeople, whatever they're selling, oftentimes you'll go in there and sell a price, maybe it's medical benefits or whatever it is. For us at the time, there was benefit, right? We could go ahead and we had really good benefits, and that was the lead 90% of the time. So for me, that was one turning point that kind of helped me, I think, grow and grow fast, very significantly. And then the next turning, and I will say, I mean, to be transparent, and I don't talk about this a lot, but even during the entire time there, as much as I grew and got better and performed well, you're still working in an environment with some of these, long timers who are just killing it. And, and I was still a young salesperson. It wasn't easy for me to just completely be myself and let loose and just like be totally confident and what I was, what I was delivering, right? The conversations that I would have with a business owner or prospect. It was when I got recruited away from this company and I went to kind of the next phase. And this is a whole other interesting story. I go to the next company, they recruit me over, and sales manager's been there 17 years and he's the guy who hires me. Well, 3 months later, he kind of gets let go in a surprise situation. So I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do? I should have never left Disparity. Like, what did I do this for? Um, but at the same time, I step into an environment where I've got this experience. I've got this internal confidence that now I'm in a place where I'm like, okay, nobody knows me here. And for whatever reason, it was an opportunity that it helped me to kind of just say, you know what, I'm going all in. Like I'm just gonna kind of be bold, be myself, use my experience. I don't care what anybody thinks about it, and kind of come out of my shell a little bit more. And basically only the knowledge that I knew I had gained. And with sometimes you're around these veterans who've done something at the highest level for 15, 20 years. And although you may feel like you have good feedback or the right answers, you might be hesitant to say it. You don't want to say the wrong thing and feel like you might look stupid in front of, somebody who's been a president's club performer for 20 years. So getting out from under that kind of helped me come out of my shell. And really that was probably maybe one of the biggest turning points. Um, they kind of quickly catapulted me to, leadership, not too far down the road after that. But, I end up at this place and good company. But like I said, sales leader gets let go, and I'm like, what now? They bring in another sales leader, which was not the best hire. I think this person lasted about a year there, but in that year they left a lot of I think destruction in the wake. A lot of folks left the company at that point in time, and I stayed for a little while, kind of enduring it, but kind of a poor leadership experience. And so for me, I'm thinking, again, what did I do? I should have never left this good environment that I was in. And it turns out, fast forward a couple of years, and then the first leadership opportunity I had, the sales manager that hired me at that company ends up putting in a really good work for me at another company. I get called, by another PEO in our industry, and they're like, "Hey, so and so tells us you're the guy we need." And I'm like, "Okay, well, that's awesome. Appreciate the feedback," and then I declined their offer to come work for them because I had
Nice.
just gotten burned. I felt like in a bit of a smaller company situation than the first big company I worked for. So I thought, I feel like I need to go work for another big company. Like they're big, they've got stuff in place, they got it figured out. So I did. I took a position at another company in the HR outsourcing industry. And it was a timing thing there too. I think I go in, they had just made a big acquisition. There were a lot of moving parts, um, challenges with leadership, big challenges on the client service side. And again, I mean, I'm there for a period of time and I'm thinking to myself, like, I cannot believe I ever left Insperity. Like, I really, it was a good thing. It was a good situation, a good environment. What did I do to myself? Little did I know, like, things are really lining up for me behind the scenes. Like, the company that, was calling on me, were calling on me again, like, hey, we still want you to come work for us. And so I did, and at this point, I was still a sales guy. So I go work for this mid-size, smaller mid-sized company. And um, I mean, it was crazy. I'm telling you, it just feels like I felt like everywhere I go, things, as soon as I get there, things are falling apart. Like, what is happening? But really, they will fall into place. So I go there as a sales guy. They just brought in a new manager to manage the sales team, and within 6 months, he does some things, gets himself terminated, and I get a call to come down to the corporate office, and that was my first opportunity to become that interim sales manager. And then, fortunately, within those first 6 months, we were killing as a team, and it became a permanent position that then grew from regional sales management to managing the entire sales force. But that's kind of the very high level of how that transpired. But again, it was just one of those things where sometimes it feels like things are falling apart, but really, like, you've got to keep your mindset focused, and really, like I said, there's opportunity in all of this adversity, because every one of those situations I look back and I learned so much from it. But again, I mean, while I thought, man, I've always kind of had the feeling that I want to be in leadership at some point. There was no clear path for that. There was so much change going. You go here, turnover happens, and then you go to a different place, turnover, and then you're like, what is going on? Am I ever gonna get on that consistent? You feel like you gotta get on this consistent path and just keep, slowly climbing the ranks. And then you go from this position, you get it doesn't always go that way. And that's kind of what happened. I had some turmoil there for a few years with a lot of change. um, Actually, it was funny because I look back now, and another, piece of life's adversity, was with someone I was dating for about 4 years, got married, and a few months later, some things happened, got divorced. And I remember during this time, she's like, I can't be with somebody who's so unstable, because I changed jobs a few times. I'm just like, what? Like, this is crazy. Like, I'm not going to stay somewhere that I clearly see like this isn't for me. And now I look back and I'm like, kind of worked out. But it's just never, it's not always, it's rarely going to go exactly how you draw it up in your mind. Right. And so that's where, like, for me, as I've been on that journey and through all of those kind of unexpected situations, The one thing I haven't mentioned much about is it did during that time, it was bringing me closer and closer to like seeking God, right? Seeking that relationship with the Lord. And then everything starts to make sense. It's like, okay, you realize like he's blessing you with these divine connection and orchestrating your steps. And, if you start, and the more I kind of sought after that relationship, the more these incredible breaks just kind of started falling into place. Uh, and that's kind of how I ended up here at HRO as well. Just, very interesting connection that was unexpected and was very timely.
I love what you said about things seem to be falling
Absolutely.
apart, but they were actually just falling into
Absolutely.
place.
Yeah. So, I mean, it does, it helps a lot too, now, once you've gone through it, I think I was telling you recently, I had on our podcast, I interviewed a friend recently and he was an NFL guy for 6 years. And we were talking about it from a sports perspective, but he made the comment and I loved it, but it was, nobody reaches that professional level without having gone through some stuff, some challenges, some tough times. And it's absolutely true. I mean, everybody, not everybody, but I think a lot of people have the drive to want to grow and be a leader, be in management, own their own business. And we all have this picture or path in our mind that where it just all kind of, I do this and then I do this and I just take these steps and then I'm there. And boy, are you ever some surprises. Yeah, I don't know many people that it's worked out smooth and effort, smooth and seamless like that for. Pretty much every leader I talk to has a very unique story about how things came to be for them. So yeah, no different here. Yeah,
The
absolutely.
strongest
Remember,
steel is forged in the hottest fires.
definitely a believer. Yeah.
Thank you for
Yep.
sharing that. You
Close.
brought us close to the current
Yeah.
day. When did you tell me about
It's
that
probably
most
the
recent
toughest one,
transition to where you are now? How
and,
long
and
ago
there's
was
a
that?
couple reasons for that. That was in 2019. And so, I'd managed the sales force for about 6.5 years for this particular company. And another one of those, so unexpected kind of moments and uh, definitely some adversity. But, I was in a place where the last year or two there, um, feeling a tremendous amount of stress and frustration. Um, just with, leadership and some of the things going on there and not to knock them. They're good people, hearts in the right place, just, some differences in, opinions on things we needed to be doing to be achieving our goals. Um, we were creating some big challenges for the sales team and being on the sales side, managing that team, I got to hear about it pretty much daily from that team. But it was tough because I mean I was in a place where I was making more money than I had ever made, in my career at the time. Making really good money, well into the six figures. And for me, it was tough. I mean, it was kind of a looking back now, like I definitely would have handled things differently, but it was definitely kind of a faith test. I feel like too, because I mean, I was so stressed about losing or leaving that position because of the income that was attached to it at that point. And really now looking back, I'm thinking like, from a faith perspective, God's laughing at me because I'm sure he's thinking like, really, how brought you here? You don't think I can go recreate the same thing? Like, come on now. And, but I was so fearful about walking away from that level of income that I stayed in this environment that was creating tremendous stress and some health issues from that stress that really still linger today. But it was a very stressful environment. I ended up, finally I remember the day that, we parted ways. I went down to the corporate office and I remember telling my wife that morning before I left, like, don't be surprised if I come home unemployed today because I've kind of like had it up to here. And sure enough, that's what happened. What happened. Went down to the corporate office, had some meetings, got kind of heated and, ended up parting ways, uh, that day. And it was tough because, I mean, I was close with our sales team, right? I've still got close relationships with several of them today. And so part of it was, sadness I didn't expect to feel because all of a sudden, like, you're not connected to that team in the same way anymore. And you could work so hard and put so much into it. But then it was just kind of like, okay, what's the next step here? I didn't have anything. Well, actually, I did have I had been working on something for months and it did not transpire. But another person who owned a small company in our industry was like, hey, I want you to come over and be the president of our company and help me build this thing. And the guy just kept, stringing it along and delaying and delaying. And so then this moment happens, and then I'm reaching out to the guy and he never comes through, right? It just keeps delaying until I finally just lost contact. I quit following up because he owns a bunch of other businesses. He never moved the ball forward. But all of a sudden I'm in this situation where I go from, this, healthy income to unemployed and don't have a clear path of what's next. And so this lasted probably, about a month and a half, 2 months. I start, and at that time too, a former boss of mine who went on to start his own company. And this was a tough decision too. It was one of those things where I was really standing on faith here because he had been reaching out. He found out I was available, made me an offer to come lead his sales team. They're like, look, we'll pay you 100K base salary kind of thing, which I'm like, man, you're going to have to, at this point in time, I'm like, you're going to have to pay me a lot more than that. And, they wouldn't do it, but I'm like 100K versus zero is a big swing there. I've got a family to feed, but, I ultimately declined that, with literally nothing else on the horizon. Like, okay, am I doing the right thing here? I really don't know. And so I started to kind of put together my own business, at that point in time. And, building a website, marketing materials, just kind of going to be building a consulting business using my background and expertise. And all of a sudden, I get this LinkedIn message from someone I worked with after I left Insperity and GNA. I mentioned I went to another big company. Uh, well, an HR person that I worked with there for a short period of time hits me on LinkedIn and was like, hey, our CEO wants to meet you. And I was the CEO of HRO. And I'm like, awesome. Yeah, I'll come have a conversation. No agenda, no idea what we're talking about. I show up to the HRO office and meet Vinay and, we're having a conversation and I really like the guy. We click really well. And, a few days later, we go grab some dinner together, continue our conversation. He makes an offer and it just felt right, man. It was, I came into HRO in October of 2019. So after about a 3-month gap of unemployment. And I mean, it was so crazy, man, because the, I come in, small company, great structure, but he's just taken over the company. I didn't even realize he had just, in the beginning of 2019, fully bought out the business. And so I come in, the goal is like, hey, well, I need somebody to lead sales that knows what they're doing. I'm the VP of sales at the time. So we got one salesperson. We're going to build a sales team. Probably get to 4 or 5 salespeople at the end of the year. That was the plan at the end of the next year, 2020. We all know what happened in 2020. So the pandemic rolls around in March, and all of a sudden we're in a situation where, we have to furlough some employees. And then instead of building a sales team, I'm the last guy standing. It's just me. And I'm like, I'm supposed to be over here building a sales team. I was managing a team of 10, and now it's just me here by myself. And I'm like, dude, yeah, it was such a test at that time because I so liked HRO and the folks I was working with and the leadership so much. And after coming from an environment where there was tension and frustration and stress, I appreciated this a lot. And so I'm like, I miss the leading, I miss the bigger leadership responsibility too. So I really didn't know while I was torn between should I go look for something else where I'm leading a bigger team again, or should I just kind of hang tight for a while? And I started, and this actually also was a shift where in our company, I'm still managing sales at this time. We're like, what are we going to do for business development? It's just me. Like, I really don't want to go back to old school, like picking up the phone, making cold calls, sending emails, like traditional prospecting. Not something I'm interested in doing right now. And in this environment, my thought was people are always going to continue to buy from people they trust, even when times are tough. They will make buying decisions with people they trust and believe in. And so that was a springboard for us to start building what now is a very robust referral partnership program. And it turns out the audience is insurance brokers that we primarily partner with. In the beginning, it was some law firms and CPAs. We narrowed it down to insurance firms made the most sense. But anyways, so I'm in this place where I'm thinking about maybe, and still at this point, my income is like in half. I'm making half of what I was when I left the previous position. So even though I'm excited about what we're doing. I'm like, I got to get paid, and I am literally, and mm, this is the first time outside of my household anybody's heard this conversation. But I was so torn and so, on the fence about, what to do because I really loved our company and what we were doing so much. And again, the person who runs the company is fantastic and we're close. And I'm like, do I want to leave that? But I did have some opportunities reaching out and I had taken some interviews and I had looked into some other positions. And this is amazing. So I got a call from a firm in Austin and the recruiting firm's like, hey, this other company they're making you an offer and you'll be leading a team of 8 for this large company in Austin. And they're going to be sending the offer over on Friday. And this is like 2021. And I get a call, I get a message from our owner of our company like a day or so later. And he was like, hey, can you meet me for lunch on Wednesday? This is 2 days before the offer is supposed to be coming at the other place that was significantly higher in pay. And we sit down, we have a good lunch, and during the lunch, he was like, look, I want to get back to focusing on my passion and, some other things that I want to be doing. I want to make you the president of the company. And I was just like, that is incredible. Like it was such a God moment for me. Like the timing and the way that worked out, it still gives me chills, man, because I was 2 days away from maybe missing out on, a phenomenal opportunity and a chance to stay at a place that I really enjoyed. And so all of a sudden, I found myself back in a position with really everything that I wanted and and an even, greater opportunity to kind of, be at the highest level of leadership, which for me it's really become all about, recognizing the blessings of being able to lead people and taking those opportunities to really try to use my influence for as much good as possible, right? To make a positive impact on everybody I can touch however, whoever that may be, our internal staff or partners or whatever, but, just kind of using that position to really, you know, bring good to everybody I can. But it's amazing the story and how all that unfolded. The timing of everything. I mean, 2 days away from possibly a completely different future that could have been a very different situation. So that's how it kind of came to be. And I ended up here and now again, I mean, you know, 4 years, this is our 4 year anniversary at HRO. We've had a record growth, double the size of our bid, right at double the size of our client base just last year. Um, so it's been a pretty amazing thing to watch unfold. No, but you can't. Yeah, you can't. I always say you can't get that lucky that many times. With the timing of some of these things, I mean, it just blows my mind.
That
But it was
timing,
definitely no
that's no
coincidence, man.
coincidence.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. And so, and it's crazy too. We haven't talked about that, but the other cool thing about it is like
A
during this
faith
transition
enhancer,
to,
faith
president of
builder.
the company and the last couple of years we had, like I also had just,
Wow.
really started dealing with significant impact of some pretty brutal health issues to battle through. And so it's really got to be cool to watch. I mean, again, for me, it's a faith thing because I mean, we've been able to accomplish so much, and I feel like I've got another I've got so much left in the tank, right? I feel like I've been able to give probably 60, 70% of myself at best because of the health issues. But still, like, look what God's been able to do out of that. Because, because I've given it to him, like he's multiplied it and turned it into something bigger than I ever could have on my own. And so that's definitely trusting that, knowing, hey, well, we're no different than anybody else. We're going to run into some tough times and adversities. You always will, and we'll continue to learn from those. But you know, I mean, it definitely has been looking back at all the adversity has been the biggest blessing, really, to kind of mold and shape me and my career path to what it is today. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. Uh, we all go through it. Look around
Thank you for
now, and
sharing that.
anytime I
It's
have the chance to share
quite the
bits and
story,
pieces of
quite the
the
origin
story, I
story.
try to because you often run into people or meet people, and you see their struggle. You can, or even your own team, right? You can see sometimes like things get overwhelming, times get tough. Like it's easy now to like really reach back and pull on some of those stories and experiences to really share that and let that kind of really feed somebody else and help fuel them, empower them through some of those tough times and really come out the other side even better than they were before. And I think, and I believe that I fully believe that if you keep that mindset, that you'll come through every adversity and you'll be better than you were before. You'll be stronger than you were before. You'll be further down the road than you were before. Um, so don't be discouraged when things get tough. Remember that this is an opportunity, and if you take the right approach through that opportunity, then it can really lead you to some places better than you ever thought you would end up. So patience, patience is the key. Um, some of let me make sure to lose.
What
Some of what
haven't
we talked
we
about last time I
addressed
thought was pretty
that we
interesting
should
too. You
have,
asked some questions
or at least
about
should on the next one?
just our company too. Like, how have we managed some of the challenges with becoming a fully remote workforce, right? And making that shift and still keeping a team, still maintaining a healthy culture, retention. You read so much about the recruiting space these last few years, and there's been huge turnover across companies. People are, for the last 2 years, you had people just throwing money at candidates, paying people like stupid amounts of money. And so you had ridiculous amounts of turnover, and we've been so blessed here. We really virtually had no turnover. I think I mentioned we had one person leave. She wanted to use her degree. And so she, after 4 years with that, decided to go use her accounting degree doing something different. But really, aside from that, we haven't had turnover and we've been able to manage very successfully the rapid growth that we've had while still delivering a very high level of service. I think we're maybe like 4.8 or 9 stars on Google, 98.5% retention over the last 4 years. And so being able to kind of manage all of those challenges, that's probably a good conversation too. And that's been cool because it's been a learning experience for me, right? I've led sales teams for years, now leading the company. I mean, hey, I've taken that same humble approach, right? Like I know we've got some good folks on our team that I'm not bashful about leaning on, right? I'm happy to, hey, look, you know more in this area than I do, and really kind of sharing in that leadership and letting others contribute has been a huge help to helping us kind of navigate these times, the whole COVID situation and PPP loans and all of that stuff. I mean, we bounced through all of that better than I ever thought we would have. Um, but it has been an absolute learning experience every step of the way. And yeah, I mean, I feel like, you know, you always feel like, what else could there be, right? But you definitely